It is time out for Andre Onana, Rasmus Hojlund, Casemiro, Anthony, as said by the man himself, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who, in an interview with Gary Neville for BBC, just exposed everyone without taking any hostages, mentioning names. Guys, this is hitherto unseen in football. Subscribe to the Night of Sport and let's get proper into this Man United talk. Now, in the aftermath of this big one, I told you Man United is that club that will keep giving you, even when you're in an international break. United takes no breaks, does it? So, listen. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, in this interview with Gary Neville, says a lot of things. Now, for me, what stood out is the fact that the owner of the club, the man who is at the helm of football at Man United, is mentioning names of players who are currently at the club in a season that's ongoing. Mentions players like Andre Onana, players like Rasmus Hojlund, players like Casemiro, players like Anthony. Him saying these are players they inherited, so they don't want to fully account for them because they inherited them, and it will take him and his INEOS team time to get a squad they can fully account for. That's one that he said. He also went on to say that there are players who are either not good enough or overpaid by Manchester United. This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying this to a legend, a former captain of Man United, to BBC, the most credible news source probably there is in the world. Guys, this for me is a case of I've had enough of it. I'm done hiding things. I'm done being so corporate and formal. I'm just going to put it out there because the pressure is clearly mounting even on Sir Jim himself. I'll tell you, for Sir Jim to come out at this time and give this interview to BBC, to Gary Neville, it is clearly him trying to calm the flack that is being thrown at him and his INEOS team because of the staff cuts or the redundancies that are going on because of removing things like food, the incentives they are cutting off from staff. For me, he's clearly trying to vindicate himself. Now, of course, there are people who will feel like what he's doing is a wrong thing, but I'll tell you, the populists will feel like that. Realists like me will be happy with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I'll applaud him for that interview, because where Manchester United is now, we don't need to hide, to bury our heads under the sand. We've got to be honest about the situation, and the guy, I think the most honest person should be the guy at the helm of revamping this club, who is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So if Sir Jim Ratcliffe cannot be honest with Man United fans, honest with us, who should? So for me, I have no issues, by the way, with what he said. Perhaps I wouldn't be happy if I were Andre Onana or Rasmus Hojlund or these players who he named, about him dropping my name in something bad as that. But it is what it is. It's a terrible situation that even for him there is a lot of pressure. It could work, it might not. So why not just go out there and say the things the fans want to hear? Fans want Anthony Onana to go. Clearly now, Anthony Onana, we know, is on his way out. So is Rasmus Hojlund, Casemiro. These are all players that fans have been unhappy with. So for me, not so big qualms about it. But I'll tell you, it will be so difficult for Andre Onana, Hojlund, and all these players to play football for the rest of the season. I'll tell you, if I'm Ruben Amorim, who was praised himself by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who said he's a brilliant manager, he thinks he'll be at Man United for a long time. Again, that's what you want to hear from your employer if you're Ruben Amorim, for him to come out publicly and back you. That's what more energizer do you need than that? But I think for me it's going to be extremely difficult for Anthony and for Andre Onana and these other players he named to play football. What I would do if I were Ruben Amorim, I wouldn't play them for the rest of the season until they leave. I would just slowly phase them out. Because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done it for him. They know they are surplus to requirements. Sir Jim says whenever he goes at Carrington, he talks at length to Ruben Amorim. So you can imagine what they talk about. Now, if these are things they have not told the players before, and Andre Onana, Rasmus Hojlund and Casemiro and all are getting to hear the boss's opinions about them in the public via BBC, then certainly it should have shocked them, and they certainly have no motivation to play for the badge no more, do they? If they had any anyway. So it's for me one of those interviews that just lays it bare. It's all there now for us to see. It's now a case of Ruben Amorim dealing with it, because the dressing room is certainly going to react to statements made by the boss himself. But the one thing that really probably shook me, I would say, is the fact that Man United was paying £175,000 a year to a body language expert. Now, that, I think, for me, he mentioned just as an example of the so many unnecessary jobs or unnecessary positions that the club has had over the years, the expenditures, unnecessary expenditures they are making. Yet the club, according to him, by November or December, Christmas, if he hadn't made the interventions he made, Man United would run out of cash, would be completely bankrupt. Now, that is the threat the club was facing. So, either he's trying to just justify his mega, redundancies and job cuts, or it's actually the truth, which could be the case. So for me, I think it's okay. Whatever Man United is going through was needed. This is indeed the open heart surgery that the club needed. It's, I think, one of those things where you're like, okay, it's not good for people to lose jobs. It's not good to be in such a situation. If you are a club rated among the top 3 wealthiest in the world, you don't want to be here. But if you're there, you've got to get out of this place unless you are comfortable being where you are. So for me, Sir Jim, I'm fully, by the way, for what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing. I won't fall for the British press who are trying to depict him as the villain, as the bad guy, and the bad guy are the Glazers. The bad guys are the Glazers. Sir Jim is only trying to correct what the Glazers did wrong. It might look ugly, but for me, it's something. It's his way. He feels it can work. So we've got to just give it time and see if it works. If it doesn't, we will see. But for me, I have no qualms at all with what Sir Jim and his team have done so far with Man United. But there you go. So guys, clearly now we know that Andre Onana, Rasmus Hojlund, Casemiro, Anthony, and no more. For Anthony, he won't care because he's bowling in Real Betis. He also mentioned Jadon Sancho, by the way, saying that imagine we are paying him money to play for Chelsea. Bought him for 70 million a few years ago. How painful that is. You can imagine the damage that was caused by these incompetent Glazers and their team. So it's a very difficult place Man United is at, but nothing is impossible. For everything that's called a problem, there is a solution. And INEOS are trying to come up with solutions for the so many problems at our beloved Manchester United. Let me know whether you think it's looking good, whether you think the interview just aggravated the situation, or if you don't care, drop a comment and let me catch you later.